Welcome everyone. Just as a reminder before we get started, this meeting is being recorded. You will be able to view it later on the website, and we will also post the links, the link to the presentation, so you're able to click any links within the presentation. Sorry about that. So welcome to our BCC High School IEP and 504 Plan Parent Information Meeting. I'm going to first review our agenda, then I'll tell you a little bit about everybody here on the call. We're going to start by welcoming everyone in our panel, talk a little bit about student advocates, share some information about 504s, about IEPs, and about the IDLPs during distance learning. We will share a few additional resources, and then after that, we will have a moderated Q&A. So for the duration of this presentation, if you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A that you'll be able to see on either across the bottom or across the top of your screen, however you have it set up. And then at the end, we will review for patterns of questions and share those. If there are questions pertaining to your individual student, please email your case manager directly about those. But questions for the good of the group, please place in the Q&A. So I am Rebecca Sutton, the Assistant School Administrator here, and I oversee the Special Ed Department. Doug Nelson, who is not on this call, but I wanted to bring him to your attention. He is the assistant principal who oversees the counseling department. So both of us are here as additional resources for you. And now I'll pass it over to Ms. Newman and the rest of the team to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Deborah Newman. I'm the resource teacher for the special education department.
Good evening, I'm Jeanette Revron. I'm the resource counselor for the counseling department.
Good evening, I'm Roberta Ritchie, transition support teacher.
Okay. So first we wanted to remind you, both virtually and when we're in person, just a list of who are your students' advocates. The first being your student themselves, especially as students are in high school. We spend a great deal of time working with them on being able to be stronger self-advocates. You as a parent or guardian, your school counselor, your teachers, grade level administrator, the school psychologist, that's Ms. Lindenfeld, our pupil personnel worker. We actually have a new pupil personnel worker this year, and I'm hoping I'm saying his name right. It's Gisberts. Ms. Reveron, is that correct?
Yes, Gisbert.
Gisberts. Your case manager for your IEP or 504, and paraeducators. There you go. Go ahead, Ms. Reveron.
Thank you, Ms. Sutton. For 504s, the school counselors are the case managers. So they're the ones that run the meetings for 504s. So it'd be really important if you have any questions about your child's 504, they're one of the first people you can contact about. 504 evaluation and review meetings are held throughout the school year. So during virtual learning, all of our meetings will be held virtually. So you'll either receive a Google Hangouts Meet invitation or a Zoom invite by either the school secretary or school counselor about your 504 meeting date and time. You can only access the Zoom through your child's account and the Google Hangouts. Everyone should have access to that. And then we review the 504 plans every year, and they're updated as reviewed. But of course, if you need to have it reviewed at any point in time, please contact the school counselor and we can set up a meeting. And then teachers are asked to provide feedback on 504 forms that are sent to them via email for us to have for meetings. And then the entire team will get together and have a meeting about your child and have the 504 discussed and reviewed in a timely manner. And we will then send out the 504 plan to all your child's teachers to make sure that they start implementing all the accommodations. And again, if you have any questions about any of the accommodations, please contact your child's school counselor.
Thank you, Ms. Reveron. Now for Ms. Newman.
Good evening, everyone. So just a little bit of information about IEPs. As you all know, those meetings are held annually throughout the school year, depending on the cycle your child's IEP is in. During remote learning, all those meetings will still continue to be held just virtually instead. During distance learning, students will still continue to receive services, especially through the core academic classes. They will be supported by special education teachers that are in certain classes, co-teaching with general educators, and para-educators are supporting a number of classes in all 4 core content areas. The way support is being provided is really multiple ways. Obviously, whole group instruction is taking place, but paraeducators and special educators are also working with students in small groups and one-on-one through breakout rooms and through check-ins. If your child receives a related service like speech or occupational therapy, that person delivering that service has reached out to you, hopefully, and has worked out some kind of service plan to meet with the student and deliver those services through the distance learning format. So just a little bit about distance learning plans. So the IDLP is the individualized distance learning plan that applies to both students with 504 plans and IEPs. During the time we are virtual learning, your students' teachers will be implementing the accommodations that were written on the IDLP, which for special education, and I believe the same is true for 504, those were revisited by case managers and are currently being revised if anything changed from the original distance learning plan written last spring.
That's correct for 504s as well. Case managers, being the school counselors, wrote the IDLPs when we went into distance learning, and those were sent out as well to teachers so they could start implementing the accommodations on the IDLP. So basically it's any accommodation that was on the original 504 and that can be implemented during remote learning.
Thank you. And we do have a few additional resources linked here. As I said, this presentation will be put on the website along with the video, so you'll be able to click on all of these links to take you directly to the resources through the MCPS website. And that is it for our primary information presentation. We are going to shift into a Q&A now. I would like
Ms.
to...
Sutton,
oh, yes,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead,
but before you do that, I forgot to turn it over to Ms. Ritchie just to speak briefly about transition services for students with IEPs and how those would be worked out during our distance learning format. Sorry about that, Ms. Ritchie.
Oh, no worries. Thank you so much. As I mentioned earlier, I'm the transition support teacher at BCC. Each high school in the county has a transition support teacher that works with students with IEP plans to help develop a plan for post-graduation and beyond. So embedded in each IEP are transition goals that we work on. And if a student's transition goal needs to be modified during COVID-19 in a IDLP, I'll be letting you know and offering your student a modified activity that's related to the original transition goal in accordance with their existing IEP. Let me give you one example because I've been sending some out already that needed to be modified due to the building closure. So for example, if your student in 9th grade or 10th grade or 11th grade was going to take a PSAT or a practice PSAT, since that was canceled, I'll be sending home information about practice websites that they can go on and have access to practice and get a sense of the language and format of the test. So that's just an example of one of the modified activities I would send home. So If you don't hear from me and your student has an IEP, that means that I can pretty much work on those goals and achieve those goals with your student during the school year. And lastly, if we do get back into the school building, I'll revert back to the original goal, if I can, on your student's IEP. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ritchie. All right, so so far we just have one question primarily in the Q&A in the chat, which is kind of twofold. Are parents supposed to receive the IDLP, and when should they expect to receive it if they have not received it yet?
I can answer for 504s. So the IDLP should have been received when we went into remote learning. If your child had a 504 then, should have been emailed out to you and then emailed out to the teachers. And then the next time you would actually receive an IDLP this year would be during a 504 review. But if for any reason you need a copy of the IDLP, if you didn't initially received it, then please contact your child's school counselor and they can certainly send you the IDLP so that you have it as well.
And for students with IEPs, you should have been notified by the student's case manager if the IDLP was going to be revised or if the one last spring was in effect. If the IDLP needs to be revised, we have until October 9th to make that revision and get your approval. So if you have not gotten it yet, you should be getting it very shortly.
And so to clarify, I am understanding that everyone, if they had an IEP or a 504 when we went to remote learning in the spring, should have received one in the spring. And currently case managers, and for 504s, the case manager is the counselor, are reviewing the IDLPs to determine if they still fit for remote learning or if any changes need to be made to that plan in light of how remote learning currently looks for the fall. And if changes are being made, they should receive that shortly to be able to have them received and get approval before October 9th. And if they do not have a copy of their IDLP for some reason, they should contact the school counselor to get a copy. Is that correct?
Yes, for the 504 piece, yes.
Yeah, for the ones with IEPs, they might be revised if, for example, after the original IDLP was written, if we had an annual review after that time, or if we made changes to the IEP, or if the child services changed from last year to this year, then a revision was warranted. So like I said, you should have been notified if that was coming down the pike, and you will receive the new document by October 9th.
Okay. The next question is for Ms. Reveron. In terms of students who had previously been on Mr. Gordon's caseload, who should they expect to hear from in terms of the IDLP for their child?
Rachel Lindenfeld, our school psychologist, has been working with sending the 504 plans to teachers. So she would be a great contact as well. And we are in the process of hiring a school counselor that will immediately be working on all 504s and IDLPs. So as soon as we have that information, we will send that out to all of Mr. Gordon's students.
Thank you. The next question is for Ms. Ritchie. Will you be sending similar resources discussed today to 504 students?
I really don't, but I'm happy to answer any questions or send you information if you email me. My email address is Roberta_A_Ritchie@mcps.edu. With my transition goals, they're all relative to what the original goal is. I'm just modifying it for right now for virtual learning. So that's one of the things that I do, but I'm happy to send you information, anybody information as well about anything that I do if you email me.
I'm just going to pause for a moment to see if there are any additional questions about what accommodations look like during distance learning. Anything specific to what the IDLP looks like, or who to contact, or anything like that? Okay, well, without any additional questions, I'm just, oh, wait. Curious about how teachers are implementing accommodations at the moment. Got me just in the nick of time. So the question is, how are teachers implementing these accommodations?
So this is Ms. Newman. I would say, you know, just like we did when we were physically in the building, different teachers do the accommodations differently. And some of it will depend on if they have support in the class by another staff member. If the class is supported by a paraeducator or a special educator, lots of times those people will be the ones making sure the students get the accommodations. In classes that don't have that support, the teachers will, you know, modify instruction or do breakout rooms or check in with students on check-in days and ensure that they are receiving the accommodations on their IDLP.
Thank you. I'm going to take the next two questions and then bring actually probably the next three questions. The next question is, how are accommodations being addressed with College Board and SATs? Accommodations for College Board are still the same. That is a separate process. Students do not automatically get the accommodations on their IEP or 504. If your child has an IEP, you would work with Ms. Ritchie to apply for the accommodations through College Board. If you have a 504, you would be working directly with your counselor. And then College Board makes the decision as to what accommodations they approve or not for their testing. And that goes for all College Board testing. Once you are approved, it applies to the PSAT, the SAT, and AP testing. Any College Board testing is covered once it is approved. I'm not sure if that answered the question or if there was a specific distance learning slant to it, but that's how accommodations are handled for College Board. ACT is also similar. There's a separate process for them. When you apply for the test date, you indicate that you would like accommodations, and then they email your case manager, the counselor, or Ms. Ritchie, depending on what kind of how you fill out the form, to say this person has applied for accommodations. Do you confirm that they use accommodations in school? And then we verify that yes, you use those accommodations in school. For IB testing, similarly, for IB testing with 504 accommodations, again, speak with the counselor and also Miss Michelle Dean if you have any questions about accommodations for IB testing, but accommodations are also available for IB testing. So similarly, MAP testing, there's a lot of questions about accommodations for testing. There is no extended time for MAP testing because it is an untimed test. So students, there's no way to build in an extended time when they can take as long as they want on the test. It's not designed to be in a certain amount of time. That it typically takes students about 45 minutes to complete it. So we've built in a pretty sizable time for them to do it. But if they do not finish in that time, they will pause it and finish during one of the makeup sessions. So there's no need for any extended time for that test. If you have additional questions about the MAP-R, there's very few accommodations needed for that, just given the nature of it and what it is specifically testing. The next question is, would the school consider providing small on-site classes for students that have difficulty with virtual courses? That is not a decision that is up to our high school, we are bound by the same regulations that are outlined for all of Montgomery County Public Schools. So we are not able to consider doing something different as we are a Montgomery County Public School. Any other questions? And if I'm not answering these correctly, please feel free to add on. Since we're on the topic though of difficulty, I will say that if you check the website for the College and Career Center, Ms. Machus has been putting some information about resources for students and is working on kind of revamping our peer partners program. And I will be actually finalizing a presentation with Dr. Mooney next week with Ms. Adamson as well about what our TAP program is going to look like that we'll be presenting to all of you. I believe the Educational Foundation will be hosting a webinar to share information about the TAP program as well. So we do have additional resources available at BCC to support students who are struggling. It is still all virtual at this time though. Okay. I am not seeing any new questions pop up. Just giving it another minute in case one pops up or somebody's actively typing one right now. Okay, well, I think it's safe to say that there are no new questions. Again, if you have any questions specific to your child's IDLP, you have not gotten it, you can't find it, you're not sure if all the teachers are implementing it the way you imagine it should be implemented, or you have questions about that, please email your case manager. So again, you should have been contacted already by your special education case manager if you have an IEP. And if you have a 504, you also should have been contacted, but you will be going to your counselor. And Ms. Lindenfeld is providing support for students with 504s who had previously been on Mr. Gordon's caseload. When in doubt, you can always reach out to Ms. Marisol Perez in the counseling office, who will make sure that a counselor is directly assigned to handle your concerns until we have the full-time counselor hired to replace him. And with that, I'd like to officially thank Ms. Reveron, Ms. Newman, and Ms. Ritchie for joining us this evening. Thank you all for taking time out on a Thursday evening to learn a little bit more about what accommodations look like during virtual learning. We will be posting this webinar and the slides shortly. Thank you all very much.